Okay, let's unpack this. So when you think about what employers legally owe their staff, yeah, wages and superannuation probably jump to mind first.
The financial side.
Exactly.
Right.
But what we're really seeing in the sources today, the really critical stuff, it isn't just financial. It's these twin pillars of safety. You've got physical safety and then cultural safety.
Right.
So today we're doing a deep dive into workplace health and safety OHS and equal employment opportunity EEO. These are like the fundamental rules for how a modern business has to be managed.
And that distinction you made is really key. We're pulling from some pretty detailed laws here, Commonwealth and State stuff, specifically Victorian sources like the OHS Act from 2004 and the Equal Opportunity Act from 2010.
Okay.
And these help us understand the full picture of these duties. And it's not just about, ticking boxes for compliance. It's really about shifting the responsibility onto the employer to proactively stop harm from happening.
Right. Proactive is the word. So the big idea, really, is that these legal requirements, they go way beyond just good HR practice. They fundamentally change how employers have to interact with and protect, well, pretty much everyone who sets foot on their site.
Let's start with OHS then, the workplace safety mandate. I mean, the reason this exists is pretty stark. People used to get seriously hurt or worse at work all the time.
Yeah.
So this legislation, it came about because of persistently high levels of injury, accidents, disease in workplaces. It was a necessary reaction.
And the source material paints WorkSafe Victoria as the authority here. They're not just giving advice, are they? They've got real teeth.
Oh, absolutely. They administer the OHS Act 2004, and they have significant powers. They can walk onto sites, inspect things, demand information, investigate incidents, and even prosecute breaches.
That's cute.
And maybe most importantly, they can issue these things called improvement notices or prohibition notices. If an inspector sees an immediate risk, they issue a prohibition notice, and work just stops right there.
Wow. That's huge leverage. That
Yeah.
definitely changes the dynamic from, oh, maybe we should fix that pipe to we have to fix it now or we shut down.
Precisely.
So what specific duties are they enforcing? What does an employer have to do for their staff?
Well, the list is pretty comprehensive, and it really focuses on the whole system of work. Employers must ensure the health, safety, and welfare of all their employees,
All of them. That's it.
which means providing a safe system of work, making sure equipment, substances, chemicals, that they're used, handled, stored, and transported safely.
So it sounds like it covers everything from, I don't know, the factory floor layout to the chemicals under the sink to the software they use.
Pretty much. And the employer also has to provide the necessary training, supervision, and information about all that equipment and those substances.
Right.
Plus, keep the actual site, the physical place, in a safe condition. And even ensure that goods they might design, make, or supply won't injure anyone.
Okay, that's broad.
And of course, the big one. Every employer must have workers' compensation insurance. That's non-negotiable.
Does this safety net only catch the people actually on the payroll? What about contractors or visitors?
Good question. No, the obligation actually extends further. Employers have to ensure that people on their site who aren't employees, think contractors, customers, visitors, aren't exposed to health and safety risks from the work being done there.
That's a big responsibility.
It is. Now, while the main burden is on the employer, employees have duties too. They need to take reasonable care for their own safety and the safety of others, cooperate with the employer on safety stuff, and follow the OHS requirements.
Okay, so it's a two-way street, but the employer holds most of the cards, legally speaking.
Definitely. And in some workplaces, managing the safety conversation is actually mandated.
How so?
Well, if you have more than 20 employees, you have to set up a health and safety committee if a majority of the employees ask for one, or if WorkSafe tells you to.
A committee.
Okay. And there's also a really serious reporting requirement. Employers must notify WorkSafe immediately, like right away, if there's a death or a serious injury at the workplace, or even if they're just planning to do particularly dangerous work.
Okay, so that's the law, the musts. Now, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Moving from the legal rules to the practical steps. How do employers actually do this? The sources talk about a pretty standard four-step approach for reducing risk.
Yeah, it's often seen as the kind of continuous loop of good safety management.
Exactly. So, step one, identify the risk. This isn't passive. You can't just wait for something bad to happen. The law expects you to be actively looking, consulting with your staff, checking injury records, doing hazard hunts.
So you're looking for the near misses, the small things, almost as much as the big accidents.
Yeah, precisely, because they can predict the big ones. Then step 2, assess the risk. Okay, you found a hazard. Now you have to figure out, well, how bad could it be if something went wrong?
Right.
And how likely is it to actually happen?
Right, severity and probability.
Exactly. That helps you prioritize, is this a 1 in a million chance of disaster or a minor trip hazard that happens every single day?
Makes sense.
Then step 3, the action part, control the risk. The best option is always to just remove the hazard entirely if you can.
To eliminate it.
Yep. If you can't, then you find ways to control it or reduce the risk. Maybe that means changing how work is done, putting in guards on machinery, or, as a last resort, usually using personal protective equipment, PPE.
And importantly, you can't just stop there, right? That wouldn't meet the ongoing duty.
No way. Which takes us straight to step 4. Review the controls. This is crucial. You have to regularly check if the things you put in place, the new procedure, the safety gear, whatever, are actually working over time. Is the risk actually lower?
It's a cycle. Identify, assess, control, review, then repeat.
Okay, so that's the physical side, the OHS framework. If that's about managing risks you can often see, then equal employment opportunity, EEO, that feels like it's about managing the risks that are often hidden, sort of embedded in the culture.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, this is the second major legal pillar we're looking at.
And the main law here, in Victoria at least, is the Equal Opportunity Act 2010. But there's also key Commonwealth legislation, like specific acts for race, sex, age discrimination.
That's right. You've got the Federal Racial Discrimination Act, the Sex Discrimination Act, the Age Discrimination Act, among others. They work alongside the state law. And the whole point is preventing discrimination.
And the list of things you can't discriminate based on, it's incredibly long in the sources.
It is remarkably comprehensive. It's illegal to discriminate against an employee or even someone applying for a job based on their age, race, sex, disability or impairment, political belief or activity, sexual orientation, pregnancy, gender identity, marital status.
Okay. Wow. Keep going.
Physical features, whether they're a carer, family responsibilities, parental status, lawful sexual activity, industrial activity like union membership, religious belief or activity, employment activity, breastfeeding. It covers a lot.
That is staggering.
Yeah.
So are you saying a manager could genuinely get the company into legal trouble just for asking, say, if an applicant is married or who they voted for?
Yes, absolutely. If that information isn't relevant to their ability to actually do the job, those characteristics are protected. Questions need to be about skills and experience, not private life.
And there's another layer, too. Association.
Right. Critically, the law also says you can't discriminate against someone because they are associated with a person who has or is even assumed to have one of those protected attributes.
That expands the protection significantly.
It really does. Think about someone caring for a disabled relative, for example.
Okay, so how does this EEO stuff play out practically, like in the hiring process?
Well, the obligation kicks in right from the start, even with the job ad. Ads should use inclusive language, avoid anything that suggests bias.
Okay.
And then in interviews, the law is crystal clear. You cannot ask for information that could be used to discriminate. Stick to the job requirements, competence, skills, experience. That's it.
And this isn't just about hiring, right? It applies throughout the employment relationship.
Absolutely. It extends to everything. Equal pay for equal work, that's a big one. Equal opportunities for training, for promotion. Basically, ensuring people with similar skills and experience are treated similarly.
And just like with OHS, there's an internal duty here, too. The employer has to manage how employees treat each other.
Yes, exactly. Employers have a responsibility to make sure their employees aren't discriminating against or harassing colleagues based on these protected characteristics. Creating and maintaining a respectful culture is part of the employer's job.
Culture.
Yeah.
Okay, and speaking of culture, this leads us to what seems like a really critical shift in the EEO space. The sources mentioned this big change with the Victorian Equal Opportunity Act in 2010.
The positive duty.
Right. Before that, it sounds like employers were mostly reactive. Like, they'd wait for somebody to complain about discrimination before doing anything.
Largely, yes. It was often a defensive posture. Wait for a problem, then deal with it. But the 2010 Act flipped that. It introduced this positive duty. It's like the difference between waiting for a fire to break out versus installing smoke detectors and sprinklers beforehand.
Good analogy.
Employers now have a proactive legal obligation to take reasonable and proportionate measures to eliminate discrimination, sexual harassment, and victimization before they happen. It's about actively building a fair culture, not just reacting to unfairness.
That proactive requirement, though, it seems like it might clash with how some businesses actually operate. The sources pointed out that Diversity Council finding Only 13% of businesses surveyed thought cultural diversity was even important in hiring.
Yeah, that statistic is quite striking, isn't it? Especially when you consider that, what, over a quarter of Australians were born overseas?
It seems like a huge blind spot.
It really is. And it's not just a legal blind spot, it's an operational one, too, because there's a strong business case for diversity, not just a legal or ethical one.
Absolutely. The sources touch on this. When you foster diversity, you can actually gain real advantages. Maybe you can understand and enter new markets more easily because your staff reflect those markets.
Right. Or you can serve your existing customers better because you understand a wider range of needs and perspectives.
And internally.
Internally, diversity can boost creativity, problem-solving, flexibility. It just makes the whole organization potentially smarter and more adaptable to change. It's a strategic asset.
Okay, so we've got these frameworks, OHS and EEO, and this big push towards being proactive. How do government bodies actually help enforce this and support businesses?
Well, they've set up specific agencies. In Victoria, for EEO, you have VEOHRC, the Victorian Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commission.
VEOHRC, okay.
They were set up under that 2010 Act. Their job is basically to inform people about their rights and responsibilities, educate workplaces, handle complaints, and try to resolve disputes.
And dispute resolution.
Yeah.
These different methods, right?
Yeah.
Mediation and conciliation. What's the difference there?
Yeah, that's an important nuance. They might use mediation, where you have a neutral third party, the mediator, who helps the people involved talk and try to reach their own agreement. The mediator doesn't tell them what to do or suggest solutions.
Okay, so the solution comes from the parties.
Exactly. But with conciliation, the third party, the conciliator, also helps them reach an agreement. But the conciliator can actually suggest possible solutions or ways forward to help them bridge the gap.
Got it. Slightly more interventionist. And federally, for gender equality.
Federally, there's the Workplace Gender Equality Agency, or WGEA. That was set up under the Workplace Gender Equality Act 2012.
WGEA. And their focus is?
Their focus is specifically on promoting and improving gender equality outcomes for both men and women in Australian workplaces.
How do they do that?
A key part of their work involves data. Employers with over 100 staff have to submit annual reports detailing things related to gender equality pay gaps, representation in leadership, policies on flexibility and parental leave, that kind of thing.
Right, public reporting.
Exactly. WGEA collects all this data, analyzes it, and uses it to measure progress across industries and the country as a whole. It also helps them develop programs and resources to push for better gender equality.
Okay. So bringing it all together, what does this all mean? We've gone from, checking if a letter is safe to making sure interview questions aren't discriminatory.
I think it means that the legal responsibilities of an employer today are really two-sided but deeply connected. You have the duty to actively manage and create a proactively safe physical environment, that's OHS, and you also have the duty to actively manage and create a proactively safe and equal cultural environment, that's EEO. The law is basically saying, stop being passive. Stop just reacting when something goes wrong.
Right.
You need continuous proactive effort to find, assess, and control risks, whether those risks are a faulty machine or ingrained bias. It's about the physical and the social workplace.
That proactive shift really feels like the core message, doesn't it? Moving beyond just compliance.
Absolutely. It's a mandate.
And here's something to leave you thinking about, a final provocative thought. The sources specifically mention that the Victorian Equal Opportunity Act protects even volunteers and unpaid workers from sexual harassment.
That's right.
So those protections extend beyond just formal employment contracts. Now, if the law is demanding safe cultural environments, even for people who aren't technically employees, what does that really imply about the scope of an organization's responsibility towards everyone who interacts with it? Customers, clients, the public. That's a pretty massive implication to chew on.